Hello and welcome to Iron Views TV, the show that makes even Paolo Di Canio look average. On this week's show, we'll be discussing West Ham's imminent move to the Olympic Stadium, looking ahead to games against West Brom and Southampton, and reflecting on the career of a certain West Ham midfielder. On that note, I'm delighted to welcome Jack Collison into the studio today, along with Supporters Advisory Board member Nigel Kahn. Gentlemen, it's great to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here.
So, to start off, we've got to talk about that Man United game. Jack, West Ham came agonisingly close to a famous victory, but Daley Blind came up at the last minute and broke all our hearts. But do you think West Ham can still take positives out of that performance?
Yeah, definitely. I think for large parts of the game they were much the better team. A lot more energy, created more chances. I think if you're coming off disappointed to get a 1-1 draw with Man United, it shows the progress we made over the last sort of 12 months.
And then Nigel, what were your thoughts of the game?
Yeah, I think Jack's right from a fan's point of view. If you can walk out of the ground disappointed at drawing with Man United, then the team is progressing as we all hope it will do.
And then someone who was talked about a lot going into that game was Kevin Nolan, obviously. Gets a lot of stick from the fans, maybe not deserved, sometimes maybe deserves a bit of stick, but he performed pretty well. There was talk of a protest around 3 minutes in, someone holding up a Nolan out banner, which seems ridiculous given how well West Ham are playing. Do you think that was that sort of thing aware of when you're a West Ham player? Do you sort of understand the criticism that's coming in for it? Does it affect him at all?
I think it would affect anyone, wouldn't it? I think what some people struggle to understand, what a big influence Kevin Nolan has on the dressing room. He's a massive character, he's a really good guy and he really brings the boys together, and I think if you were to lose that, you lose a big part of the heartbeat of West Ham and everything that's good about the team and the team spirit. I think a lot of why they're doing so well is because they're together, they all want to work for each other, and a lot of that comes from your captain and obviously it's Kevin Nolan. Nigel,
what do you make of Kevin Nolan?
I'm not his favourite fan. I think he's tainted by his association with Sam Allardyce in the eyes of a lot of West Ham fans. I think that his performances haven't been what they have been, but that's probably age coming up with him. And I think the fact that he's being played constantly, where perhaps a lot of us feel that he could be better coming on for the last half hour and actually making a difference there, either shoring the game up or even going for the goal, that might be better use of him. It seems to me that Sam is putting him out there out of stubbornness and constantly picking him for every game when perhaps he could have done with having a rest.
Well, going back to that Man United game, the strikers played a key part. Saka and Valencia did well, and there's been a lot of talk about maybe that's a more positive option than playing Andy Carroll. Who do you think would be the ideal striking duo if you had to pick two?
I'll leave it to this man first. No, go for you.
He don't want to choose between his friends. I mean, obviously, I would go Saka and Valencia. If we look what happened, Saka and Valencia come in after the Southampton game together. We hit the ground running then, pushed on, had a great run up till the end of November. Andy Carroll came back into the team because one got injured, then the other got injured, even though Carroll linked up well with Valencia, I thought. But you can see we seem to have a better edge up front. It was, if you look at the Man United game, you could see that we were on the front foot from the start of the game. Whether that was because Saka and Valencia were up front and teamed up well or not, or it was just the players up in their game because it was Man United, I'm not sure. But from what I've seen, I prefer Saka and Valencia together. But there is a need for Andy Carroll at the club and to be there to offer that different perspective.
And then what about Cheku Kuyate, who came in for Winston Reed, filled in his less common role of centre-back? Obviously, Reed's future is still up in the air, Jack. Do you think he'll be committing to the club anytime soon? Did he give any indication to you where his future might lie?
It's a tricky one with Winston. Obviously, he's been fantastic, especially over the last 2 seasons, and the championship season he was brilliant as well. So obviously, whether someone's turned his head or not, it's hard for him. I mean, he's done well for West Ham, and if he does move on, West Ham are fortunate enough to have the likes of James Tompkins, James Collins, and then a couple of the young boys pushing him in, Reece Oxford and Reece Burke. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom at West Ham at the moment.
Would you agree with that, Nigel? Do you think he is replaceable?
I think every player's replaceable, to be honest. He can be replaced. Kuyate, I'm sure, played centre-back at Anderlecht for a period. So he came in and you could see he'd played there before and could do a turn there. As for Reed, the fans, to me, are the only people that seem to go on loyalty anymore. The players, you know, that's his living, and if he's going to be offered a better living somewhere else, I won't begrudge the man, you know. But the only thing I would say is there's no guarantee of success when he moves on to that club.
Well, thanks for your thoughts, guys. After the game, I caught up with West Ham season ticket holder Mark Harrison to offer his thoughts on that Man United performance. Now by West Ham season ticket holder Mark Harrison. Mark, welcome.
Thank you.
So close to a famous victory against Man United at the weekend. A very good performance overall. What did you make of it?
It's much better than the Liverpool game, that was for sure. We're slowly but steadily improving again. That's important if we want to push on to European places, because you've got to pick up the big points against the big teams.
What do you think was the main difference between the Liverpool game and the Man United game? Was it to do with the strikers coming back in, Saka and Valencia up top?
I think when we're at home, we play a lot more confidence. I mean, you can see we're pushing the game further up, whereas away we drop back and we're just always looking for them to attack and counter-attack, whereas we're looking to impose ourselves on them.
And then Kevin Nolan, someone who's always talked about. There were rumours of a fan holding up a Nolan out banner and leading a march out of the game 3 minutes in. As far as I know, it didn't happen. What did you make of that whole situation?
Well, we all know Nolan probably shouldn't be starting, but he doesn't pick to start himself. It's Allardyce that's taking the decision. So if he plays, we've got to support him. We may moan about it before and afterwards, but during the game, we've got to support him.
And then Cheku Kuyase was key for West Ham in his less common position of centre-back. He was probably our man of the match. Do you think that could be somewhere that he could maybe take over from Reed if he left, or do you think he's better sticking in midfield?
Well, I think when he joined for us from Anderlecht, he was saying that he wants to play in midfield and he's not a defender. So I think he's probably best position is in midfield, but it's good to know that we've got a central defender there just in case when we do get these big injury lists.
And then finally, when Carroll does come back from injury, maybe this week, who do you think should be the two to start up top?
For me, it should be Carroll and Sacco. I mean, Valencia, we all know he's got the potential, but he's just not scoring. He hasn't scored for November. Sacco, I know he's been injured, but he's got two since November himself. So Carroll has been sustaining us these last few months. So eventually, so you've got to say he's in the informed striker and he's got to be picked.
Excellent, thanks Mark, great stuff.
Thank you.
Now moving on to a topic we're yet to discuss on this show, the pending move to the Olympic Stadium in Stratford. Jack, from a player's point of view, was there a genuine feeling of excitement around the club? Was it something that you talked about a lot amongst the players?
Yeah, I think there was. I remember in the early stages, a lot of the team went down to see what would be happening at the stadium, and it gave the boys a real chance to get excited for it. And obviously, you look at the way West Ham are moving forward as a club this season. They've been fantastic in the league. I think to really take that next step, I think they're going to need something like that. Olympic Stadium, it gives them a great boost, a great platform to really try and push on and maybe break into the top six.
Well, Nigel, you've had a lot of reservations about this move in the past. What's your view on it now, and what have been your main concerns going forward?
I think reservations is an understatement. My view on it now, there is nothing that I've seen that convinces me that the club had to move away to the Olympic Stadium, and there's nothing that I've seen in the layout of the Olympic Stadium that I've seen that I think it's going to be conducive to us pushing on. You could argue that Newcastle have had 50-odd thousand fans week in, week out, yet they've not broke that ceiling. Obviously, we're a London club, and perhaps that is a bit of a changer. And there's the financial implication of it. But originally, it was sold that there was a possibility, or that the tickets were going to be cheaper. Now we're seeing the tickets aren't cheaper.
Oh, really?
So
yeah.
there's a lot of things that are coming out now. The club have been very good with the drip feeding of the information and the way they've marketed it.
Well, do you not think, though, that moving to an iconic location such as the Olympic Stadium will help get better players in, better managers in the future? Jack, what do you think about that sort of thing?
I think obviously it's going to be a good opportunity for especially the foreign players looking to come over to get the chance to play at the Olympic Stadium. It's obviously going to be great. As I said, the fans obviously have got their reservations, and that's understandable. But as a player, it'd be fantastic to play at a venue like that.
Well, obviously you're on the Supporters Advisory Board, Nigel. Do you think you actually have much say in affecting the board, or is it more of a something just to keep the fans happy and give them the idea there is that communication there?
I think it was necessary under FA rules that the club had consultation. They used the Supporters Advisory Board to do that. They presented it well to the Supporters Advisory Board, and a big majority of the Supporters Advisory Board, not me, went along with it and thought it was a good idea to proceed with.
Well, Jack, going forward, do you think Sam Allardyce will be the man leading West Ham to the Olympic Stadium, or can you see a change before then?
Well, it's an interesting one. Obviously, he's out of contract, isn't he, at the end of the season?
At the end of the season.
So, well, the boys have been fantastic this year, obviously doing well in the league, still with a chance of a cup run. He's got the team back into the Premier League. You can't argue against him getting a new contract, but I know some fans might be happy to see the back of him.
Well, Nigel, would you be one of those fans?
Obviously, I would be one of those fans, yes, to argue. I'm no lover of Sam Allardyce. He has changed his football this season. Whether you believe that's a directive given to him by the owners in May or not, that, you know, there's two sides to that story. And whether we really know the truth, I'm not sure we will. But obviously the football has changed, the style of play has changed. That can be put down to the transfers. Did Sam sign the players? Did David Sullivan sign the players?
Yeah. So, not exactly sure. Well, who would you have come in then, in that case, if you didn't want Sam here next season?
Personally, I would look at it, if you take the club of West Ham, we need to be looking to bring our own players through, but it's got to be coming from the bottom upwards. If you look and mimic, say, a club like Ajax, the way they've run their system over the years, the manager controls the whole way the club is run from top to bottom. I think you would need to put a system in like that. It may take a while, it may take 4 or 5 years to bear fruit, but you need to start right through and bring someone in with their whole team to run the club from top to bottom. Whether our owners will allow that,
Be interesting.
that's another thing. But if you look at Ajax and the way they produce their players, for a club like West Ham, that's the type of thing I think we should be mimicking.
Well, what about the owners, as you just mentioned? Jack, do you feel that they have got the club's best interests in mind going forward? Because they're often maybe criticised for not really having the same vision all the fans do.
Yeah.
Put you on the spot there.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. Obviously, they're both West Ham fans, local boys, and it's a bit of a fairy tale story. Them obviously being in charge at West Ham, you can tell they care about the club and the decisions they're trying to make. Are they for the club, or are they for them, or are they for the fans? It's a tricky one, but I think what they've done since they've been in charge has been a lot of positives, and they're obviously trying to take the club forward in the best way they see possible.
Nigel, would you echo that?
Yeah, I'm quite a stubborn person, but I have actually changed my mind in regards to the owners and the way they've not done all good things, but every owner does good things, every owner does bad things. But I think of a whole, I believe that Gold and Sullivan do have the club at heart. I'm not a great believer that they will actually take the money and run. I actually think they could be here for the long run, rather than doing that. So, and to be honest, if I had a choice between David Gold and David Sullivan and the Emir of Oman, I would have David Gold and David Sullivan all day long.
Definitely. I think one thing you can say about David Gold, he does care. He's down the training ground on a Friday before the game. He's in the change room before the game. After a game, he's in there, win, lose or draw. He's trying to keep the players going. So I think, especially with David Gold, he's definitely got the club at heart.
Yeah, some of the decisions that they do, I think what it is that it's easy to dig, especially for people like me. It's easy to have a dig at the owners with some of the decisions done, and perhaps when you look at it, they're not the people that have actually made decisions. It's the people that they've appointed to run the club that have done that, and perhaps that's the difference.
Well, let's hope they do lead us to a bright future. But looking back to the past now, this summer we lost Jack Collison after making 100 appearances for the club, over 100 appearances. Jack, how hard was it to finally part ways with the club you've been with for so long?
Yeah, obviously a bit disappointing. Maybe things could have worked out a little bit different if things may have been handled differently. But I had a great time at West Ham and been there since I was 16, so a bit of a change. But it's football and things move on.
Well, you wrote that amazing almost essay to the fans explaining your departure and sort of thanking them for all the years. And I personally have never read anything like that in football, and I think it touched everyone's hearts. It really did, to see something like that. What prompted your decision to sort of write that entire passage?
It's a bit of a strange one, really. Rob Pritchard, the bloke who does the website and the programme, that just asked if I'd like to do a piece because I'd been at West Ham for so long. And I sat on my iPad about 10 o'clock at night and thought, right, I'll do a little bit. Next thing is 2 o'clock in the morning. I've got all this in front of me. I thought, right, what do I take out? What do I keep in? And eventually I thought, right, that's it. I've put my heart and soul into it. It's kind of me closing a book, like the end of a chapter, really. So I thought I'd send the whole thing over to him, see what he thought, and he decided to sort of stick the whole thing out. But I had a lot of nice positive feedback from it, and what I wrote on that paper was what I was feeling at the time.
Nigel, what are some of your favourite Jack Collison moments at West Ham?
You scored on your debut, didn't you?
Yeah, well, Upton Park debut.
Yeah. So I remember the goal against Everton. Yeah. It came on. You know, we all love an academy boy. I know you came down from Cambridge, wasn't it? Yeah. But, you know, obviously you came at 16, so you was a young boy, and that's what we want to see coming through, like one of our own. And I think the Millwall game, you know, that I think stands out. And the letter, we as fans put players on pedestals, and I think after you wrote that letter, it was as if you was one of us. Yeah. No. If you can see what I'm saying, you know, normally we are detached from the players, and when you see a player actually return sort of the adulation that we give them as a thank you and putting that, I think you're approaching legendary state.
No, I think for me, obviously, I'd been through an awful lot. I've had a lot of downs, a lot of real highs, and as you said, the fans like to see a young boy come through, and I got sort of, I don't know, they kind of looked after me in a way, and obviously I just wanted to sort of share my appreciation back with him.
Well, as I said, everyone definitely appreciated that a lot. You played under a lot of managers at West Ham during your time. Who was the best?
There's one for me, and that was Zola.
Yeah.
He was brilliant. The best player in training. The boys loved training with him. He was fantastic. The sessions were fun, enjoyable, and we had a great run in the league in his first season. Obviously, the second season was a little bit trickier. I think if they would have stuck with him, we would have got through it and come out the other end stronger for it. And I'm sure the fans enjoyed the football because obviously we were playing good football at the time, and a lot of the young boys were coming through as well. So definitely, Zola.
Zola. Were you a Zola fan, Nigel?
Definitely. I felt sorry for Zola because he came into the club, and then Excel went bust, the Icelandics went bust, the club went bust. He had to sell all his best players. Yeah. Perhaps that enabled him to bring the kids like you through.
Yeah, possibly.
And to show what we could do, like Tompkins come through at the same time. So I opened the door for the youth to show what they can do. And the football was good at times, the football wasn't good at times. But he was a football man, and perhaps his replacements. Well.
Well, let's talk about him, Avram Grant. There's rumours that he used to fall asleep on the training ground. Is there any truth in those, Jack?
I missed a lot of the season through injury under Avram Grant. I think I played 2 games under him at the end of the season. And one of them was the game at Wigan where we got relegated. Yeah. So I mean, for me personally, it's hard for me to cast judgment over his time at West Ham.
Sure, yeah. Nigel, I assume you don't have much positive words to say about him.
At the time, I must admit, I didn't think he was that bad an appointment. He'd done well at Chelsea, whether that he got left a good team. He'd gone into Portsmouth, who were in disarray, and he did get them to the cup final. So he was only back at Portsmouth, I think, from the November to the end of the season. So looking at it, he must have given a good interview. That's what. I mean, but it's weird because I think he seems to be a cup manager.
Yeah, he's had some great
cup runs at West Ham.
But he's runner-up every single time, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, he never wins the final. But I mean, we done well in the cups. Semi-final in the League Cup. We were 45 minutes from Wembley against Birmingham. Quarter-finals away to Stoke. I mean, Sam's only won the same amount of cup games in 4 years as what Avram won in 1.
Well, out of all your 100+ appearances for West Ham, which ones stick out for you in your mind, Jack?
Couple really. Obviously, the Millwall game. That's a night that will live with me for the rest of my life, and that was a special night for many reasons. And and obviously the playoff semi where I got the couple of goals away at Cardiff that sort of set us on the way to get promoted, and the playoff final, although we were terrible in the final, obviously the whole day out was fantastic, and getting promotion after a long tough season and then getting back into the Premier League, that was a real great day out as a whole.
And you got any good stories from that night out following the Blackpool win?
It was a bit disappointing actually afterwards. I was a bit unfortunate. I got drug tested straight from the game, so as soon as I walked off the pitch, there was a bloke there in a suit. I think he just wanted free tickets to the game, and unfortunately for me, I was struggling to sort of have a wee in a cup as it is, and I missed all the celebrations in the changing room. I got out, everyone had left, last one to get showered, got my suit on, last one on the bus, the whole of Wembley was empty, so I kind of missed it all in the change rooms, and afterwards a lot of the boys were going away and doing their own thing, so we had a little drink at Upton Park, and it was kind of over. I think it was more of a relief after the cup game, especially the sort of way we played in the final. It was just a big relief, a lot of pressure on us the whole season. A lot of things were sort of written about us. We had to get back up, otherwise it would have been a travesty, wouldn't it?
Nigel, where do you think West Ham would be right now if we hadn't got promoted that day?
I think we'd be back in the Premier League.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've got no doubt about that. I don't think we'd have done a Portsmouth, or Leeds, or Norwich, or Southampton and gone down further. I think we would have been back up even the next year. It's hard to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who can
it's
say?
a tricky one, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Well, moving on now to the Tweets of the Week segment. Every week we ask you to send in your questions for our special guest. Jack, we've got some thoughts up for you here.
Here we go.
So first one from West Ham United FC TV. Honest opinions on Tonks' beard.
Oh, it's embarrassing, isn't it? He's a good-looking fellow. He knows it, but his beard is so patchy. He's got to shave it off, hasn't he? I think.
Is he a bit of a? Do you think he's a bit of a glamour model in the?
I think he spends more time in front of the mirror than he does out on the training pitch. It's a good job he's a good player, isn't it?
Well, actually, quickly on that, he signed a new 5-year deal the other day. Nigel, do you think that's a good move going forward?
Yeah, I do. He's a good Premier League player. He's established himself. You can see what he do. He can bring the ball out. So. Yeah, we want to keep players like that.
Definitely.
Then next question should be coming through from ex-West Ham employee. How much of an impact did the injuries you sustained at the club affect your ability to fulfil your potential, do you think, Jack?
Yes, it's well documented, the amount of injuries that I've had. For me as a player, it's frustrating. It's the worst part of being a professional footballer. Obviously, it's a dream growing up to play football, and obviously being somewhere like West Ham, playing in the Premier League week in, week out, and then you have to have 14 months out with an injury. It's a frustrating time, and even now I still have to manage myself and make sure I'm right for training and sort of look after myself. Maybe if things were handled a bit differently in the early days, I might not be in the situation I am now, but yeah, it's definitely had an effect on me.
Sure. And then finally, hi Jack, who is the best player you played with at West Ham? That's from Lee.
There was a couple. I was quite fortunate. I managed to catch the end of Teddy Sheringham. Had a fantastic career, and God, what a player he was. It's nice to see him back at the club, and I think all the boys are enjoying working with him now. Another one would have to be Scotty Parker. He was brilliant over probably 2 or 3 seasons. He must have won Hammer in a year.
3 years,
3 years in a row, and to get to play alongside someone like that week in, week out, for me as a young player was fantastic. So he was definitely a big influence on me.
Well, on that note, Scott Parker is someone people always talk about his departure from the club. There's lots of different theories to why he left. Some to do with saying it was his father's wish for him to play for Tottenham. Can you share any info on that, Jack?
I haven't got any inside info.
Nothing there.
I think for him at the time, he was either in the England squad or knocking on the England squad. I guess he saw it as an opportunity, as a step up, but didn't work out great for him at Spurs, did it?
Well, it was the start of a World Cup year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we'd signed Kevin Nolan, his ready-made replacement.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So we needed his wages off the book for a start. I think it was as much as he wanted to leave as much as we needed him to leave financially. Sometimes things behind the scenes
I think
are pushed in a certain direction. It's hard for West Ham fans. He's gone to Tottenham, but if you look at it, he was a Tottenham fan as a kid. So what kid don't want to play for the team that they support? So
I think with Scotty as well, I think the fans appreciate what he'd done over the last 3 seasons. He put so much into every game, didn't he?
Yeah.
I see him playing one day, he could hardly move. He's been ill all week and he went out on the weekend. He was the best player on the pitch by a mile.
I mean, if you win Hammer of the Year 3 years running, you know, that's something special.
Yeah.
You know, if you look through history, it's Trevor
Rare.
Cooking. How many of others have won it 3 years running? I'm not sure.
Well, looking ahead now to our next games, we have Southampton and West Brom coming up in the Premier League and then the FA Cup. When this show goes out, we already would have played Southampton, but guys, what are your predictions going to that one, just so we can embarrass ourselves afterwards?
What do you reckon?
Oh, thanks. Me first.
Yeah, put you on the spot.
They're the only team that have totally outplayed us at home this season, which was quite different because we were all expecting them to bomb after their signings. They've pushed on, they've kicked on. They look a really good outfit. I'll be happy with a draw. To be fair, I'm fearing the worst.
Really?
Yeah, 2-1 loss.
2-1 loss. Well, you can see some odds up here actually. Southampton 2-1's 8-1, but we don't really want to tip anyone to bet on a. Jack, what do you think? Come on, be more positive than that, surely.
I think ever since the Championship days, there's always been a little bit in the Southampton games, especially amongst the players. There's a bit of a rivalry going on that. There's a bit of a rivalry going on that season. So the boys have survived from that Championship year. Always seem to give a little bit more in the Southampton game. So I'm going to go score draw 1-0.
It's a bit more positive. Well, after the game, I caught up with Connor Armstrong from Southampton blog Saints Web, and here's what he had to say on the match. We're now by Southampton fan Connor Armstrong from Saints Web. Connor, welcome.
Hi.
So from a West Ham point of view, it was probably a point gained rather than 2 points dropped yesterday. What's the general consensus coming out of the Southampton end after that 0-0 draw?
Well, I think we've got to view it as 2 points dropped, in part due to the loss against Swansea in our last home game, but also because West Ham were down to 10 and then 9 during the game. Saints should have really created enough to win the game, but weren't able to create enough genuine chances, and when they did come along, they weren't able to take them.
And then, what was your view on the sending off? Do you think it was a red card for Adrian?
Well, at the time, it was obviously a fairly nailed-on handball, but I did wonder whether Mane had fouled Adrian in the build-up, which is, from the little I've seen of the post-match stuff, is Big Sam's main gripe with the red card. I think, to be honest, it was a fair red card.
And then I saw some tweets from you. You seemed annoyed at the way West Ham had come into the game as if they were just playing for a draw the whole time. Were you frustrated by our game plan?
Well, yeah, West Ham obviously set up to, in my opinion, to play for the draw from the off. And then obviously, if there was the opportunity remaining the last 20 minutes or so to go for the win, bringing the likes of Carroll off the bench. West Ham were very compact, defended very well. Kouyaté in particular, I thought was very good at the back. It was frustrating, and obviously the time wasting started pretty early in the game, but it's understandable on the road. It's something we've done earlier in the season, but obviously when it happens to you and you really need to get the 3 points, it can be incredibly frustrating.
Were you surprised by Southampton's inability to break West Ham down? Is that something that you'll be concerned about going forward?
Moving forwards, I think it is an issue for us. We're averaging just over a goal a game at the moment. But I think there's some sort of stat that since the 8-0, we're only just averaging a goal a game. Yeah, after the 8-0 against Sunderland. So in recent weeks, creativity has been a problem. Tadic has been struggling to create chances, and Pella also has been struggling to put them away.
And then finally, going forward to the end of the season, where do you see both of our sides finishing? Where do you think West Ham and Southampton will end up?
Well, I still don't buy into the talk that Saints are going to finish in the top 4. I'd be happy with Europa League football. I still see us finishing about 6th in the league, maybe 5th, if things don't go too badly for us in this final third of the season. West Ham I expect to finish 8th, perhaps possibly get up to 7th, but I think that might be a bit of an ask. But I would still say that's a very good season, and it gives them a solid foundation to move forward and build towards European football as they prepare to move into the Olympic Stadium.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Connor, and best of luck for the season ahead.
Thank you, and to you as well.
Now, looking ahead to the weekend game against West Brom in the FA Cup, obviously West Ham's still in it, going well under Allardyce this season. Do you think we'll be fielding a strong lineup? We're going to go for this, Jack?
Yeah, I think he's going to have a right go this season. It's probably the first season over the last, 6 to 8 years where you haven't been worried about relegation at this sort of time of year. So I think he's going to field his strongest team. I know, speaking to a few of the boys, they're really going to have a go for the Cup this year, and I think they're going to win. 2-0 win, West Ham.
2-0 win, nice. That's what we got for there. That's 12-1, not a bad bet, probably. Yeah. Nigel, are you going to be positive this time, or?
No, I'll be positive. I think Samuel will go for it. I think we'll have our strongest team out possible. And yeah, I'm looking 2-0, 3-1, something like that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Get through.
Yeah, I think West Brom, they're down the bottom. Whether they'll risk their players, that's the thing on our side.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, before the game, I spoke to Dan Watts from West Brom site Baggies Facts, who was more positive about his side's chances going into that game.
And looking ahead to the FA Cup weekend, West Ham v West Brom, what's the prediction going into that? Are West Brom going to take it seriously? Are they going to put out a good side?
I think Tony Pulis has got a good history of doing well in the cup competitions. He got Stoke to the final, he got to quarter-finals and semi-finals as well. And the squads, the teams that he's put out in the previous rounds, even against Gateshead, we put out a pretty strong team. So I've got no doubts that he's going to be pretty much a first 11 against you guys the weekend. And I think the fans, they want to see a cup run. You know, it's the only real way of success for a club of our size. We're not going to go out there and challenge for European slots at the moment, and so to try and get into a cup final or to even a semi-final has to be an ambition for a club of our size in the Premier League.
So on that note, what's your official score prediction?
I'm going to go for... I think you're going to score at our place. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Baggies win. Optimistic, hoping that Sido can get a couple of goals and maybe even Brown Ide after his goal at Burnley the weekend.
Well, let's hope it's a good game, but for obvious reasons, I hope you're not right about that one. Anyway, best of luck and thanks very much, Dan.
Not a problem. Thanks a lot.
Well, thanks for those comments, Dan. Now it's time for Chris Predicts. Hello, Chris. How are you doing?
Hi, Liam. Not bad, mate. You?
Yeah, very well, thanks. You're joined in the studio now by Nigel and Jack. Say hi, guys.
You right, Chris?
How you doing, Chris?
How you doing?
So, Chris, wrong again last week, but you are getting closer, at least. What are your predictions going to this one against West Brom?
I think if we had the defence was at full strength, I'd be really confident. But I'm going to go for 1-1. I'll be quite happy to take them back to Upton Park, and I think we could do them there. So I think 1-1 at the moment.
1-1. So we've got that at that's at 5-1. Not bad bet. What about who's going to be scoring for us in that case?
I mean, we've got to go for the front two after their performance Sunday. Both absolutely quality, the effort they put in. So I think I'm going to go for Sacco, first scorer.
Sacco, guys, do you agree with that? I think it's a good tip.
Yeah, I think it's a good tip. He's always there or thereabouts, isn't he? Valencia does a lot of the running work round and about.
Yeah, I'll go Kevin Nolan. I think he's due a goal, so nice to get one in that one.
I think he's injured.
Well, yeah, he's injured. Yeah, I heard that as well.
Yeah. Well, obviously, when this goes out, the Southampton game will already have passed. But what's your prediction going to that, just so we can see if you're finally right this time, Chris?
I mean, it's going to be a tough one. I mean, I went down there a couple of years ago and we got hammered. So I've got a bad feeling we're going to lose this 2-0.
So, okay. That's your first loss prediction of the season. But knowing your
I don't like betting against us, but
well, knowing your record, we'll probably go and win that now anyway.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Chris. See you next week.
All right, mate. Speak to you later. Cheers, bye.
See ya.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Chris. Now, before we wrap up today, Jack, I'm sure all West Ham fans will be keen to hear about what's going on with you at the moment. You've opened a new soccer school. Can you fill us in on all of that?
Yeah, the Jack Collison Soccer School's up and running. First one next week, back in Bedfordshire. And then glad to say we're coming to Essex in Easter, so watch out for that one. I'm going to be doing one round Brentwood way, so hopefully have a few West Ham fans involved in that one.
Excellent. Well, I think from all West Ham fans, best of luck for the future and everything that goes on in your career from here. Thank you to all my guests today. Thanks to Jack, thanks to Nigel, thank you to Connor and Dan from the fan sites, and thanks to Mark Harrison and Chris Predicts, as always. We will see you next week, and I think all that's left to say is come on, you Irons.